Hello and welcome back to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg, here to do a Friday Reads on a week that has felt like an entire year. I don't know if you feel the same way, but it's like a lot has happened this week and it's kind of exhausting. So I think we all deserve a weekend right about now. You probably noticed I managed to get my book haul for the month up. I did not get another Q&A video or anything like that up. Like I said, this week was just kind of exhausting. Between work being crazy and stressful, there has also been a lot of politics going on. There have been hurricanes, wildfires, police shootings, protests, militias. We still have a pandemic going on with no end in sight on that, or the unrest, or any number of things. So on top of all that, my foster son is still recovering from surgery. He is doing well. Thank you for everyone who sent really good wishes. His healing is progressing very nicely, so thank you again for all of your kind wishes. So with everything going on, obviously I did not have a chance to do a Q&A video because there was just no time to do any kind of longer form video, and that usually takes up a lot of time. I did not get the final part of my bookshelf tour either, so that's going to have to wait until both of those are going to get pushed back until next week, which is September already. So I'm also planning to do my August wrap up on Monday, and I'll probably have that posted by Tuesday, so you can look forward to that. And just in things going on this week, because I didn't get any videos posted other than the book haul, I did not get a chance to respond to the International Booker Prize, which was announced this week. Thankfully, there is a great video from Eric Carl Anderson about it, as per usual. I will link it down below. I think it's just kind of a delight, and exactly the kind of bomb I needed for this week, so hopefully you would feel the same way. He did a live reaction this year where, because it was online, he had his laptop out, and you get to kind of watch along with him as the announcement is made, and that's just, it's kind of fun. And like I said, in a week that felt insanely stressful otherwise, it was just a nice little break. So I will link that down below. Please check it out. And in terms of the International Booker, I have not actually read any of the shortlisted titles, if you remember from my reaction to the long list and the shortlist. I do own one of them. I own The Enlightenment of the Greengage Tree by Shokoofeh Azar. The translator for this one is anonymous. This one did not win, but it is one that I am still very much looking forward to. I am also really looking forward to hurricane season. There's another one, Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. So those are the three that I am, I think, the most excited about. I'm also very interested in reading Tyll at some point. I thought that sounded interesting. The Adventures of China Iron did not really jump out to me all that much, and from some of the feedback I've gotten on it, it sounds like one that's pretty easily skippable. And then the one that ended up winning was The Discomfort of Evening, which was, in my reaction, the one I would probably be least likely to read. And then it ended up winning. And it's funny because most of the reactions I've heard to it have been negative. The book is kind of described as a little morbid, very depressing, very dark, kind of uncomfortable. So, and some of the reactions have said unnecessarily so. I think one person other than the judges or the jury for the Booker Prize International who liked it, and that is Matthew Sharapa. So it'll be interesting to see if some more positive reviews of that, because so far what I've seen has been negative. But I am kind of curious. Maybe it's because I feel like I'm always trying to reassess things. So my immediate reaction was like, no, that's not for me. But now I'm kind of questioning that. And I have Storygraph up on my laptop, so let's do a quick look at the plot. It's about a devout farming family in the rural Netherlands where a girl named Jas lives with her family, and her older brother joins an ice skating trip, and resentful of being left alone, Jas makes a perverse plea to God. The brother never returns. As grief overwhelms the farm, Jas succumbs to a vortex of increasingly disturbing fantasies, watching her family disintegrate into a darkness that threatens to derail them all. So it certainly doesn't sound like a happy book, but part of me is curious, I will say. Maybe it's worth kind of reassessing what I was thinking about that. I don't know, but because the most of the feedback I've gotten about it has been negative, so I don't know. I know Eric Carl Anderson was not thrilled that that was the one that won. I know Matthew Sharapa is happy about that, and most of the other feedback I've had about Discomfort of Evening has been negative. I don't have the book in front of me, so I don't have the name of the translator. Let me see if it's on Storygraph. I don't see it, and I'm not going to make you wait for it. I should have probably prepared that. But yeah, so it's interesting because it seemed like Enlightenment of the Greengage Tree, Memory Police, and Hurricane Season were clear frontrunners, especially based on feedback and the way things seemed to be going. I was kind of thinking Enlightenment of the Greengage Tree had a really good shot because of the political angle of it. Like I said, the translator is anonymous for security reasons. So I thought Memory Police had a really good shot because of the political ramifications of that book, especially in the current year. And I thought it was going to come down to these two. So I was very surprised it ended up being Discomfort of Evening. But I'd be curious to know what you think and which of those books you have read, if any, and which you would recommend if you've read any. Or are you going to stay away from the Discomfort of Evening, or like me, are you starting to think, I don't know, maybe there's something to that? So if you have thoughts, you know what to do. The comment section is down there. So just let me know what you're thinking. And then in terms of the reading week so far, oh wow, it was a mess. I was having a really hard time getting into anything and making progress on anything that I was reading. So I did what I tend to do when I'm hitting a reading slump. I turned to an old favorite, which was Sue Grafton, and I picked up F is for Fugitive, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get to further along. But it worked. It got me out of my reading slump. So like I said, I didn't make a whole lot of progress on other things, but that did kind of help me recharge my batteries, and hopefully I can spend the weekend getting caught up on some other things. I'm hoping I will finish some more things by the time I do my August wrap-up on Monday, and we'll just see how that goes, because one of them is an audiobook, and I tend not to have any time to listen to audiobooks on the weekend because I listen to my audiobook mostly when I'm working on a project, and the projects are usually mindless enough that I can listen to an audiobook and still pay attention to it. And weekends, the only time I get is at bedtime. So we'll see what happens with that. But anyway, I'm glad I managed to get over that reading slump a little bit. Or it seems premature to say I'm over it. I hope I'm over it. We'll see if I can carry through. I managed to make a little bit of progress in one of the books. So let's just move into all of that. The only book I finished this week is F is for Fugitive, which I was not even reading when I did my last Friday Reads check-in with you guys. If you are aware, this is part of Sue Grafton's Alphabet Mysteries with Kinsey Milhone. It is my reading comfort food. I think I had read as far as P is for Peril, and didn't get any further in my first read through of the books. And I was working my way through them very slowly, hoping that by the time I got to the end, by the time I got to Y is for Yesterday, that the series would be done. And then Sue Grafton died before she could do Z. So the series ends with Y is for Yesterday. And when she died, I decided to go back to the beginning and reread them. And I've been doing that reread very slowly as well, because enough time has passed. Like, I read the first books circa 2001, 2002. So it's been almost 20 years. So it does kind of feel like going back to an old friend. And it's interesting because I had given this one and E is for Evidence fairly kind of almost negative reviews when I first read them, and I enjoyed both of them the second time around. But I'm going to talk more about this when I do my monthly wrap-up. But this is the book that I turned to get me out of my reading slump. I have done a kind of introduction to the Sue Grafton books where I talked about A, B, C, and D. I will link that down below. And now I've read E and now F this year, so if I get G and possibly H by the end, I will do another video about the next books in the series. And we'll see how that goes. But yeah, thank you to Sue Grafton for helping me with some peace of mind and in this crazy, crazy, crazy week that we just had, and helping me with my reading. So that's the F is for Fugitive is the book that I finished. I'm still currently reading Blonde. This is my buddy Read with Britta Bowler. Britta very kindly agreed to put off our check-in from last week, so since the last check-in I have not made progress in it. And so far, I started to read it last night and got, I think, maybe 5 pages in before I was just too tired, so I put it down. So now, tonight and tomorrow, I'm going to try to make some progress on Blonde, and we'll see where I get with that. If you remember from last week, I was kind of deciding, I had gone from liking it but having some quibbles to having a lot of quibbles and kind of just not liking it. So a lot will depend on the next 100 pages about how this is going to go, and I know Britta was feeling the same. So this is very much TBD. We'll see. But right now, this is something that is probably going to carry into September. So stay tuned for more thoughts on Blonde. I will not have finished this by the time I do my August wrap-up. The other book that I am reading is The Bass Rock by Evie Wilde. I in my last Friday Reads check-in, I talked about how I was I was having a very hard time getting into that book, really struggling to find a rhythm with it, and people said that they found it, that you had to kind of get into the book to get into it, and that seems to bear out because the next 3 or 4 chapters flew by, and I actually felt a little bit engrossed. But now what I'm finding is the last chapter that I read was the more present day one, and for some reason that completely killed the momentum that I was making. And it's going to be interesting because now it's going to go back to the other 2 storylines, and I'm guessing that that's going to pick up the pace. So it's going to be interesting to see if that becomes a pattern. Like when it comes to the modern storyline, I just kind of fizzle. I'm guessing not, but for some reason, what's interesting about it is that the 3 different timelines do feel different. Usually when there are different timelines or chapters alternate between people in a book, they still sound the same, which is one of my pet peeves. If you've ever read the book Did You Ever Have a Family by Bill Clegg, my big problem with that book is that every chapter is a point of view of a different character, and they come back and forth throughout it, but there are a lot of characters who take the narrative, and every single one of them sounds the same. Even, you have people who are well into their retirement age, and you have a teenager. They all speak in the exact same voice. And you have a woman who is dealing with really hardcore grief, and you have a woman who, it doesn't matter what their backgrounds are, what age they are, they all sound the same. And it's interesting that the 3 different time periods in the Bass Rock really feel different in terms of atmosphere, in terms of writing and everything, but they still feel close enough that it's linked, and it'll be interesting to see if that bears out in the rest of the book. I don't know if I'm turning my attention to Blonde for the weekend because I need to do my buddy read check-in on it, so I don't think I'm going to be finishing the Bass Rock before my Monday wrap-up for August either, but we'll see. Who knows? Maybe if I get my check-in done for Blonde fairly quickly, I can spend some time reading it, because I would like to finish that quickly because I have some more things coming up, but more about those in a little bit. So those are the 2 physical books that I am reading. Well, Blonde is a physical book. I'm reading The Bass Rock on NetGalley, so it's an ebook. But the audiobook I'm listening to is The Court Dancer by Kyung-Sook, and I'm still liking it, but I just really didn't make any progress on it this week. And I was hoping to have it finished in August, because August is Women in Translation Month, and because I'm listening to the audio, it does not say the name of the translator. So when I do finish that book, I will look it up, because I don't want to ignore the translator. But I'm still enjoying the book. I just really didn't make a whole lot of progress. Finally, last night, I managed to make a good amount of headway in it, but I'm only about 25% into the book. And it is very different from Please Look After Mom, which is the only other book by Kyung-Sook I have read at the moment. But I'm very much enjoying it. It's a really interesting story, and I can't wait to see where it goes. Hopefully I will have it finished in August, but I'm not counting on it. So there are a lot of things that are going to be continuing into September, and it's going to be interesting to see how all of that plays out, because I'm going to have a lot going on in September. First of all, I'm supposed to be judging the final round of nonfiction for the Book 2 prize, and I had only read 1 of the finalists, and I haven't even started any of the others. I was actually telling myself I needed to start In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado this week, just so I could get ahead of it, and it's not available on Scribd until the middle of September now, so that's going to be interesting. And I have holds on the audios for Catch and Kill and Say Nothing, both of which are not going to be available until mid to late September, so I have 3 audiobooks that I'm going to need to cram into the last part of September for the Book 2 prize. Solitary, my library is still closed because I think I mentioned last week they are in the, not, it's not just the pandemic at this point, they are in the process of moving into their new building. They've been creating a new building next door to where the library in Missoula is for about 2 years now, and it's finished, and they haven't been able to use it because of the pandemic. So they are in the process of moving, which means I can't get anything from them, and I haven't really looked into getting things from other libraries in the area. But so far, the only way Solitary and No Visible Bruises are available is as an ebook, and I don't really read ebooks, so that's going to be interesting to see how that goes. So I'm working on. I'm gonna try to have to. I'm gonna have to try to cram all of those in September, and that's going to be an interesting crunch because I also have 2 buddy reads starting. First is Love in the Time of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I have always said I want to read more Gabriel Garcia Marquez because the only book of his that I have read is 100 Years of Solitude, and I love that book very much. So this is probably his next most famous book, and I'm looking forward to that. So this is going to be a project, and it also meets part of my brief for my Read Outside Your Comfort Zone challenge. As part of that, if you follow along, you know this, but just in case you don't, I'm trying to read more books by authors who are not from America or Europe. Gabriel Garcia Marquez is obviously from South America, and I have not gotten anything from South America yet. So I had been planning to do Isabel Allende, but somebody asked about a buddy read on this one, so I agreed. So it's going to be this one, and we will see how that goes. I am also going to be starting a buddy read of Transcendent Kingdom by Gyasi, which is released, I think, on this coming Tuesday, which is September 1st. I'm really excited for that. I managed to get a copy on NetGalley, and I'm really excited because I am a huge fan of Homegoing, which was Gyasi's previous book, which was, I believe, her debut. I just loved it, and I'm really looking forward to reading another book by her, and the advance buzz that I've been seeing about Transcendent Kingdom is really good, and I'm trying not to, I haven't looked at the plot description. I periodically do this thing where I try to go into a book not knowing a lot. I tried to do it with the Bass Rock, and then when I was having trouble getting into the Bass Rock, I looked at the plot. That's usually what ends up happening to me. But I'm going to try to go into Transcendent Kingdom without knowing a whole lot. So actually, I've only read the headlines of reviews, or maybe like skimmed a little of it, but I haven't read a lot of the reviews because I don't want to know too much about the plot. And we will see how that goes. So there's a lot coming up, and we'll see how that goes. It's going to be interesting to see if I can cram all those book two prize books into, especially since so many of them are going to have to be in the latter part of September because they're just not going to be available until then. So yeah, we shall see. And interestingly, like, movie theaters are reopening. Tenet is supposed to open. Now, I'm not actually the biggest Christopher Nolan fan, so I'm not super excited about Tenet anyway. But if you follow along, you know that I am also a fan of the movies. I'm a huge fan of the Oscars. I try to watch movies that are going to be in contention for Oscars, but I am not going to be going to a movie theater anytime soon. Just not for me. I don't think it's safe, especially with case numbers still continuing to climb. I live in a rural area, so it seems a little bit silly, except the caseload in Montana started with Yellowstone and then spread out from there, and there are still cases coming in my town, in my county. So I don't feel safe going to a movie theater and sitting around. So one of my local independent theaters has been doing movies we have a small baseball field in town, and they've turned it into a drive-through for the summer, and I have not been able to see any of the shows that they've done, but I feel like that's a great idea. That is probably the only way I would be willing to go to a movie theater right now. I am much more likely to pay $30 to see Mulan on Disney Plus. That is probably the route I would go for the time being. I just don't feel comfortable being in a movie theater. I'm kind of interested if you feel the same way. I just don't. I don't see it being a good thing. A lot of school. It's funny because this week has also been a lot of school openings in Montana, and in my county, within 2 days of the schools opening, 2 schools in my county had cases of COVID, and are re-examining what they're doing. And this scares me because my mother-in-law works in a high school in Helena, so So if you have kids, I hope things are going well, and I hope that there are plans in place to keep your kid and you safe. It's crazy times, crazy times, and I wish there was something easy to say about that, but I think this is the way it's going to be for the time being. And I know a lot of people want a return to normal life, but I think being responsible, this is kind of the way we need to be for now. But some things you don't have a choice. If school is open, you have to send your kid. I'm kind of glad my foster son graduated in June for selfish reasons, because now it's one less thing to worry about, I guess. By the way, this is neither here nor there, but somebody had commented on an Instagram post of mine to say, why do you always call him your foster son? He's your son. And I don't know if anybody here is actually thinking that, but just like a point of clarification, fostering is not adoption. So he has a biological mother. His father has never really been part of his life, but but legally speaking, he's not my son. And I will always think of him as my son, but I don't want to assume that he feels the same way. So sometimes I slip and say son, because that is how I think of him. But in general, I try to give him the leeway to make up his own mind about who he wants his family to be. And I don't want to assume that he would feel the same way about me and my husband. So it's more about that, if anybody has been curious. Nobody's asked, but so it did come up on Instagram, so I figured I would just put that out into the world, since Friday reads are a little more chatty, at least when I do them. But anyway, that is, what a week. What a week, what a year. It's been a lot. So wherever you are, I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're staying cool. The temperatures did kind of cool down here, but I think this weekend they're going to climb back up. So we are probably going to lie low, and hopefully I'll get some reading done. And like I said, wherever you are, I hope you're staying safe. Hope you're well and getting some reading done. And as always, I really appreciate your time. It means a lot, and I appreciate your patience. I will get another 3K Q&A video done. I'll link the first one in the series down below for now. And I will be back. Until next time, happy reading.